informal conversation on the meetings industry. Let me do some introductions. So I'm Tracy Poggio. I'm chairman of ANTOR. And I also here representing the destination Gibraltar. And I'm very happy to be joined today by Chris Walls, Vice Chair of the Alliance of Independent Event Agencies, and Hugh Tuckett, Executive Director of Euromic. So I've just got some questions to sort of lead into a more general discussion about where we are in the marketplace at the moment. But perhaps it would be a good idea if I start with Chris. Perhaps you could just give me a little outline from your members as to where they find themselves at this time of waiting for that start date, certainly in the United Kingdom, of when we can start moving again.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy, and good morning, or good afternoon as it is now. Yeah, we've had a lot of conversation amongst the membership over the last 12, 13 months now. And if I'm honest with you, nobody really knows. That's the biggest problem. It's this uncertainty which is the issue. We've all got clients that are ready to go. There is undoubtedly business out there. Obviously, we've lost a fair number of organisations over the last 12 months that either have just stopped working, ceased to function, disappeared, or whatever may be the case. We don't know who's going to be coming back when it does come back, and we don't know when it's coming back. I myself did an inquiry yesterday into Malta, and whilst it's open, it's not really open. And there's no real indication when it's going to open. This is the big issue. It's the uncertainty of the future, and allied to the uncertainty, it's the potential issues around deposits, loss of deposits, cancellations, and other bits and pieces, and the impact of that is preventing people from really kind of taking the plunge. So we're pushing hard, if you like, to the people we can push hard to say, look, what about some form of guarantee that says if there is an issue, then all money is refunded. There's no question. It's just a refund straight away without any problems whatsoever. We can then go back to our customers and our clients and say, look, okay, you're not really taking a risk here. We've even talked about putting deposits to Acro and other bits and pieces where it's sitting there safely, so each party can get hold of it. But at this moment in time, it's not being spent. And that's the uncertainty is the bit that's killing us at the moment. When we get some hard and fast, definitive guidelines, then we've all got business to place and we can actually get crack on with doing it. The issues, of course, have been the U-turns in the past that have caused a bit of discontinuation and an upset, and throwing sort of spanners in the works. All we want is a plan. When we've got that plan, we can crack on. And we're all ready to go. We're all gagging a bit to get started. But at the moment, it does feel a little bit like we're treading water, and we're treading water going around in circles, waiting for the time that the gates are open and we're told to get on with it. The mood is positive. That's the odd thing, is that a year down the line, a year ago, somebody said to us, "Oh, would you mind stop working for a year and don't take any income?" And everybody said, "Well, that's not gonna work." We're still here. People have had the chance to kind of reboot and reset their businesses and really kind of refine their thoughts. And so we're just waiting for that starting pistol. So when that goes, I think it's going to be great. If I'm honest, I think 3 months down the line, we're all going to be saying, well, what was that issue we had? Because I think we'll be back into it. Okay, numbers will be reduced, but I don't think it'll be reduced that much. There may be different formats. We've just experienced our own virtual issues trying to get this sorted out. That's always going to be there. That will obviously improve over time, but there is always going to be a place for the hybrid element. But I don't think it's to replace the face-to-face in any way. I think it will be an additional string to the bow, if you like. I think it will perhaps expand the offering. So I think it's really positive in real terms. If we can get started, and that's the question, is when can we get started? When we can, off we go.
Thank you for that. And yes, absolutely. I think everyone's waiting to see when travel itself will be able to get go and what that new norm is going to start
Yeah.
looking for us. But of course, when we talk about the events industry, there are a number of questions that we can sort of open up out there, and most of them would be on the starting block around the issue of corporates traveling and health. And insurances. So, I mean, my first question, and maybe I'll pose this to Hugh, sort of representing the sort of DMC community down there, but also from the perspective of destinations, is this controversial concept of vaccination passports. Do we see this as something that might encourage the corporate market to get moving again much quicker?
Personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I think yes. I think a vaccine passport is the only way to go. To be honest, the world cannot wait until every last person in the world has been vaccinated. There has to be some form of measure to allow people to prove that they can travel, and whether that be a vaccine passport or a test, a really strict testing regime, or a combination of the both, of the two, which I think is most probably the way that it's going to work, in conjunction with, sort of the traffic lights system of countries that you can visit and those that you can't. So yeah, I think vaccine passport is the only way to go. What's worrying and concerning, on the back of what Chris said, is the plan. European governments still seem to be very much at sixes and sevens about this. There's a huge amount of debate. We don't know where we stand. I know that, I think Matt Hancock's actually in Denmark at the moment, looking at a passport app that could potentially, help. But yeah, I think there has to be. I don't believe that there will be different levels of safety. When a corporate client is looking at holding an event or running an incentive trip, it's either safe to travel or it's not. So there has to be a level of safety that's built into the system. And I think hotels have got it already. I think venues have got it already. I think DMCs have got it worked out already. I think the missing piece of the puzzle is the airlines, the airlift, and the airports. And I think the moment that gets sorted, whether that be by the testing regime, which seems to be happening slowly, in conjunction with the passport. So what I see happening most probably, I think, is it will be the testing regime that starts first, that will allow people to travel. And whether that testing is done at the airport or hours before, and then the passport following on. But yeah, there has to be some kind of differentiation of who's safe to travel and who isn't.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
think.
And
Sorry,
go ahead, Chris.
Tracy, if I could just add to that, I think one of the big issues that is sort of being overlooked to some extent at the moment is the logistics around the physical procedures that are required. Hugh, you're absolutely right. I can't see anything other than a vaccine passport coming into play. But that in itself then brings into question the logistics that are required to get somebody through an airport, to get somebody into a hotel lobby to check in. You've got space requirements, you've got queue requirements. And it has a massive operational impact for the supplier, be it the venue, be it the travel company, be it the airline, be it whatever else. And that's the bit we need time to just get our heads around and test as much as anything else. We kind of brush over, yeah, that's fine, we'll have testing, we'll have this, we'll have that, we'll have the other. But there is an awful lot of workload associated with that that I think we just say we need that time to work through, think about how it's going to become effective. And it's if you like, you can compare it to what used to be going to a cloakroom in a venue and dropping your coat off. And there were different ways of doing that, which made things work quickly or slowly, but it can have a massive impact on the event. So I from my point of view, we just want that bit of time to think about it, if you like. The issue we've got at the moment, say with the uncertainties, is that we tend to find out these things 2 weeks before we're told it's happening. That doesn't give a client any confidence when they phone up. So yeah, right, okay, we can go. Let's go to the US tomorrow. Say, but hang on a minute, we just need to think a few things through, and we've got to be ready. We're working hard to try and almost tell the government what we want them to allow us to do and when we're ready to do it. I think there's a massive amount of confidence around the abilities of all the supply chain to deliver a COVID secure event. I don't think anybody questions whether or not they're going to be safe or not. We need to communicate to the marketplace. We've done all that. It's all in place. We've been doing this for 9 months now, talking about what we're going to have to do. We've got a plan. We've got lots of plans, but the actual physical delivery of an event still hasn't happened really. And that's the bit I think we just need that little bit more notice around, and give us a chance to deliver a proper event that's going to work, that isn't going to have all sorts of hiccups along the way, because that's only going to add to the sort of the uncertainty around a client's confidence.
Right, that's absolutely very true. So when we talk about this position where we're ready to start up, and yet we're waiting for the final starting whistle to go, and we're looking for our destinations themselves are sort of priming themselves, ready to get out there and starting to talk to their customers, albeit agencies or other corporates. What should destinations be doing now to be getting the right messages across to build confidence in that marketplace, do you think? How is this time productively to engage with people so that when that market is ready to open up, everything's ready to go?
I think to the point about destinations starting, actually one of the things that our members have been doing right the way through the process is actually constantly updating their clients. There's been ever since the pandemic started, actually I think a lot of our DMC have sort of worked incredibly hard in keeping clients up to date. There's been a massive amount of this kind of stop-start process. Everybody thought we'd be much further down the road than what we were, in October last year. So there was this sort of false starting, and you've got these corporate clients that are saying, okay, can we come? Can we not? I mean, I spoke to somebody this morning that managed to slip a quick trip in September last year. So there was that going on. What do destinations need to be doing? Well, updating their clients. What we're seeing is that DMCs and destinations are being brought into the process a lot earlier, because at the moment it's just a moving target. And I think this is what we're going to see for the next 6-7 months, is destinations moving up and down from green, orange, red sort of status, which is going to change their ability to travel, or people's ability to travel there. So as destinations come onto the green list and they are perceived safe to travel, there's such a pent-up demand that they will be sought after destinations. So we'll see things like, to give you an example, places like Israel that were possibly not on a client's radar before. Suddenly, okay, it's green, we can travel. They've handled the pandemic well. And again, going back to Chris's point, they handled the cancellation and the flexibility and the terms and the payment terms, and they've come to the party in terms of that flexibility and booking flexibility. So that's great. Let's go to Israel. Let's consider it. And I think that will happen, that destinations will come on stream. Last year we were talking about travel being sort of local first and then regional and then long haul taking longer to come back. I don't think that's the case. I think as destinations appear on the green list, if they're cost effective, if there's an air link there, it will become an option. I think people will be willing to travel. There's such a pent-up demand that I think people will be more than happy to travel to destinations that they possibly wouldn't have considered before, just purely from the fact that it's ticking those boxes of being safe, being secure, and being flexible.
Yeah, I would agree here. I think absolutely it's one of the first factors on the list of where should we go is it safe to go there. If it ticks that box, then we'll consider it wherever it might be. And actually some people are saying, well, you know, I wouldn't have chosen Israel beforehand, but why not? You know, it gives us a chance to look at places we wouldn't normally look at. And it is that I do think that there is there's no fear around the travel if it's deemed to be safe. That's the issue that some people say, well, will corporates travel? Are they a bit worried about whatever? I don't think they are, as long as it's deemed to be safe. But at the moment, what's deemed to be safe and what's going to continue to be safe, you know, we had situation with India going back on the list yesterday. A week ago, Boris Johnson was going there. It was all fine. But now and that's the issue. It's such a big change around in such a short space of time. That adds to that uncertainty about, well, that's okay. Let's book something now let's go to Russia. Fine, brilliant. But if it's going to move down the list at all, then we need to know that it's moving down the list. I think our issue is around information. The DMCs and the venues and the destinations, I think, have been great. We're all pretty confident they've all got it. They all understand it. They're talking to us with that knowledge behind them. They've got their own protocols. They've all added to their own protocols. They've got more than is required. So we're comfortable with them all. And it is that consumer confidence that we've got to build. We probably have been guilty of not necessarily transmitting that onto the end users yet, because I think we're sort of waiting for it to be all sorted. And maybe we've got to start to trickle that information through a little bit earlier. And start to say, look, guys, there are some places that you can go to pretty much now. You know, I mean, okay, other than the May 17th issue, but I don't see the May 17th issue. I think the big worry we've got is on May the 18th, that red list has suddenly got 500 destinations on it, because that's how they've handled it in the past. Is you can do whatever you like, but this list tells you all the places you can't do it in, which is everywhere. You know, we were all on tier 4 when it all happened last time. So I think we've got all the elements there. We just need to string them together in such a way that the clients can feel comfortable that it's all going to work. And as you say, Hugh, we're going to end up going to destinations we haven't been to before, which presents its own issues from our point of view, in that the knowledge isn't as good as it should be. But you know, I think I've got 12 Zoom meetings this week. We're all sitting here learning about all these places all over the world that we've never been to beforehand, with varying degrees of success and otherwise. But it's this has been a great educational process, and we've had the time to actually kind of think about those things and look at those places we wouldn't necessarily looked at before. So I think it's been great for the up and coming destinations and the less obvious destinations to put themselves on the map a bit.
Well, that's certainly very exciting for ANTOR members to know that those that haven't had as much traction in this sector before have got new opportunities, and I'm sure that there will be many opportunities out there to diversify as we move forward. So I want to go back to this issue of uncertainty, which of course is the word that unfortunately we're not going to be able to shake off anytime soon. Do we see destinations and maybe working with DMCs, perhaps working packages that might include insurance covers that would incorporate, you know, all of those cancellation charges, more detail in that, in what someone will be looking for in a delegate package going forward? And this might be a way that destinations work much more closely with their DMCs to incentivize again that marketplace to coming back. Perhaps I'll pose this question straight to Hugh there, DMCs.
Yeah, Tracy. Most definitely. I mean, when we're talking about confidence, when we're talking about safe to travel, we're not just talking about the health side of things. Unfortunately, also Chris alluded to it. You know, there were some horror stories that came out in terms of cancellation fees and how a lot of corporate clients at the beginning of the pandemic were hurt quite badly, and you know, a lot of relationships were tested between agencies and clients, and agencies and DMCs and suppliers and hotels because of that. So risk mitigation in terms of the financial side is huge. And obviously corporate clients will be looking to reduce that risk wherever possible. So yes, the flexibility that we're seeing from airlines, from cruise lines, from hotels at the moment, that you can cancel, you know, right up to the last minute, rebook, I think is great. And I think that's going to continue for some time. It's going to have to continue for some time, because as countries come on and off the list, you know, as we potentially see spikes of variants, you know, as different things and factors come into play, you know, there's going to be another 2 to 3 years of postponing, I think, you know, and rebooking, depending on, and moving, you know, programs around. I think there's a definite need that stuff has to happen once it does start happening. So once we open the taps, as it were, it's going to be a case of how we manage that. So the risk mitigation is going to be huge from corporate clients. The downside of that is that capacity is reduced, availability is reduced. A lot of hotels around the world have closed. Unfortunately, a lot of venues have closed. So you're going to see increased capacity, limited availability, coupled with demand, you know, an increase in flexibility that clients are asking for. So in the beginning, it's going to change from a buyer's market to a seller's market. And how the industry handles that is going to be very interesting, because I envisage that in, you know, 10, 11 months time, we're going to have really big demand, clients demanding flexibility, but the suppliers being unable to provide that flexibility, because there's just so much pent up demand and people want to travel and book things. So yeah, it could be a very interesting year next year, but to get the industry going, by all means, if there's no flexibility, corporate clients are definitely not going to commit to spending large amounts of money if they can't reduce that risk or postpone or cancel, depending on how things are going.
Yeah, we were talking on a session yesterday about the potential for some sort of government-backed insurance, because it's not only the cancellation costs and the bits that are very visible. It's the unseen costs and the time and the effort that an organisation has to commit to put these programs together. And of course, that's just lost. If something is cancelled or moved, that's effectively thrown away, and that can be a big cost. You know, that's 1 or 2 people inside an organisation pretty much flat out on it. So there is a need, I think, to just give the whole system a little bit of a leg up. And even if it's a shifting position, so maybe at the start of the process, it's, well, okay, we'll guarantee you to be able to recover your costs if there is an enforced cancellation. Maybe 3 months down the line, it sort of moves to within 90 days and so on and so forth. So it becomes a lessening burden on the government. But we're going to need that kind of leg up to get started, just to get the ball rolling. Once the ball starts rolling, I think it'll be fine. But it's that real kind of leap of faith at this stage. Any client that's going to put some money into a deposit for a trip in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, 5 months' time is a bold client. And we all see it, and they see it too. So they're sort of saying, well, let's hang on. That's what we're planning on doing. And we'll push the button at the last minute, which doesn't help any of us. So we just need that bit of impetus to get started, and a bit of support just to make people feel a little bit more comfortable, a bit less or a bit more sort of risk averse, if you like, and less worried about it. And it will slide back into it. And I think, you know, down the line, we'll look back and say, well, it was a bit of a hiccup, but that was all it was. At this moment in time, it seems like a massive wall to climb. and it's very hard to convince the client to say it'll be fine.
Absolutely. But so let's go back to destinations again, and considering the volatility in the marketplace and the way that we're going to be having much shorter lead-in times to coordinate things. Inevitably, this is going to evolve into sort of more trends emerging. So we might see the marketplace slightly change. I mean, can you both talk to me a little bit about that? Do we see corporates wanting to spend more time in outdoor environments? Do we see, you know, the traditional meeting place setting changing, the activities that people want to do when they travel to a destination change? I mean, again, this is a great opportunity for innovation in a sector that is having a restart, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
Not sure who wants to take that.
Yes, we're seeing an element of it. I mean, as I alluded to, some of those destinations. So destinations potentially such as India and Brazil are going to have a hard time. Those really sort of intense city. But you might almost see something like Venice struggling as well, you know, in terms of those really busy city programs. So there's definitely a trend for more exclusivity, so smaller boutique properties, you know, sort of buyouts of restaurants, event spaces like that, depending on the type of event that's happening. But I think, once again, I think if it's safe to travel, people will want the full experience. You know, they will want to go to bars and nightclubs in the evening. They will want, you know, sort of to travel to local cultures and mix with that. So I think if we're not seeing any of those trends at the moment, you know, it'll start, but I don't think it will last long. I think once it's safe to travel, things will go back pretty much to normal.
Do you see perhaps the scale of conferences changing? So we've touched on technology, we're using it here today, but do you see, you know, whereas before perhaps, you know, in the medical profession where you'd see conferences for thousands of people, that you won't see that scale anymore because the international travel just won't be there, that perhaps that hybrid model will come in and allow those delegates to be zooming in from wherever they are in the four corners of the world? So could that end of the market slightly change, do you think?
I think it's, I mean, we've been using a term called smelling the room. You know, there is still that need for the ad hoc conversation, the sidling up to each other in the queue for the bar or whatever it might be, that's still going to encourage, if you like, the face-to-face meeting. I think what's going to do is it's going to expand the offering, and it means that actually potentially you could be talking to bigger audiences, because there are people that wouldn't travel beforehand for whatever reason, not because of pandemic, but just simply logistics or otherwise, that will actually now think, oh yes, I can, because I can attend in a hybrid form. So yeah, hybrid is here to stay in one form or another, but I think it's an add-on to what was already there as a face-to-face. So it's making the offering more wholesome. It's opening up the audience participation angles. The cost of another person joining a hybrid conference is relatively small. So actually, from a client point of view, there is an opportunity here to get to more people for the same money, almost. So it's definitely going to be a part and parcel of it. I think in terms of the, you know, going back to what we was just saying with you there, I think that one of the things that may well benefit enormously from this is this kind of CSR and sustainability side of things, because obviously this plays entirely into those hands. So actually, what was I won't say a struggle beforehand, but what was becoming more and more on the a topic of discussion, and then thrown off the table because there was a massive cost associated, will actually now become a real opportunity, and we can actually start to embody that into the offering as well, without that sort of cost penalty attached to it. But it therefore means that the shape of the norm, if you like, as we move forward, is going to change slightly, and perhaps the balance will change between face-to-face and hybrid. I don't think you'll ever get rid of that hybrid, that face-to-face opportunity. I don't think you'll ever move that to one side. I think that's these sessions are proving themselves that it doesn't quite give you that whole experience, and it somehow seems a bit more shallow. Because you can't see the size of somebody, you can't see what their hands are doing, or what their what their shape is, or what their feel is, or how they smell, or how they listen, how they hear. So that will all start to impact on the business over time. I think we're going to have a swing one way and a swing back towards the middle again. So we will all try it, but ultimately I think we'll still come back to face to face. But the technologies will support our development, if you like. And it is about innovation. It is about pushing things forward and doing things in a looking at things in a slightly different way. So I think it's all good news ultimately. And we've had a bit of time to sit back and think about it. So how nice is that?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I mean, hybrid here is definitely here to stay, the technological part of it. But I think when we look at the mice industry as a whole, and it's all lumped together, but it really all boils down to the objectives of the event and what you're trying to achieve. So I think some of those regulatory meetings, those meetings that have to happen, to get people together, by all means, I think that will definitely go virtual. And the sustainability angle that Chris is talking about there is very true. Why would you put thousands of people on a plane if you don't have to discuss an issue that you can discuss via Zoom? So definitely, I think we'll see a big portion of that. On the other side of things, when we start talking about product launches, when we talk about sales kickoffs, when we talk about incentive travel programs, team building, where we're looking for the human connection, where we're looking to inspire individuals and get teams, bought into the brand, and the emotional attachment. Hybrid in virtual is just not going to cut it, because it just doesn't tick that box. So I think what you'll see is a shift of budget from taking some of the budget that we used to spend on some of those regulatory meetings. Well, if we can do that on Zoom in 2 days as opposed to a 4-day, let's take the extra money that we've spent there and let's do something really special around the sales kickoff meeting, or the new product launch, or the incentive program. Let's invite more people. Let's make it more exclusive. So I think that will be really, really positive for the industry in some ways. But yeah, that's how I see it panning out, because Chris alluded to it as well. The sustainability portion is huge. Putting 400 people on a plane and shipping them to the other side of the world for fun as a reward is not very sustainable, and it's also very difficult to justify if a corporate company is talking about sustainability in the way that they are going to market. So they're going to have to look very carefully at that. They're going to have to justify that. So we will see in these programs and in these meetings a bigger drive on sustainability, a bigger drive on carbon offsetting, a bigger drive on and climate change is becoming even more important. It's becoming more to the fore. So before the pandemic, you'll remember that there was that flight shaming, that people were talking about. I don't think that's gone away. The moment that people start traveling again, that will become front and center. So corporate clients will have to justify the sustainability of an event, but that can be done, and carbon offsetting and those kind of things. But it's just going to become a lot more visible, I think, and it's going to become part of the RFP.
Well, thank you both very much, and we've touched on a lot of thought-provoking information there, but sadly we've come towards the end of our half an hour. But just before you both leave us, could I ask you both to give me your top 5 destinations to watch for 2022?
No. I think it really is. I mean, this is a weak answer, but it is a very much a moving picture. It does change daily, and the Zoom presentations that we see open up new thought processes every day. So something you weren't considering yesterday that you see tomorrow suddenly becomes a viable option. And ask us again on May the 18th, and we might have a better view on it. But it's I think it's to generalize it, it's going to be those places that we didn't necessarily think of that control themselves that bit better. I heard yesterday Malta have got 600 cases of COVID on the island. They're going to get that under control pretty quickly. So does Malta suddenly leap to the forefront of a destination list because it's going to be a completely isolated location where it's safe? Of course, the Maltese are just concerned about everybody coming in there. So you've got many different factors at play that determines whether a destination is going to welcome you, wants you there, control you when you're there, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a very hard question to answer at this moment in time. But in a week's time, who knows? 2 weeks' time, we should have a bit more idea. 3 weeks' time, a bit more. Hopefully, they don't change it in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, sorry, Tracy, it's an impossible question to answer at the moment because there's going to be so things. The only thing I'd say is that the fundamentals still will remain though. If a destination is offering good value for money, it's safe to travel, it looks interesting. I think this is an opportunity for destinations, to be honest. I think this is the perfect opportunity for destinations to showcase themselves and say, listen, consider us if you haven't considered us before. So get out there front and center with what you have to offer. I can see new up and coming and smaller destinations could be very interesting. So yeah, I'd be putting my neck on the block though if I had to name 5. We have 52 members. I'll be shocked.
small. Just being a little bit provoking there for you, but I'd certainly like to say on behalf of my own destination, Gibraltar, we'd love to welcome all your clients as soon as we can. But yes, and certainly you've given a lot of thoughts for ANTOR destinations, many of whom are already very active in this marketplace, and I'm sure there will be those that will be looking and hearing today that certainly all things are possible in the year going forward, and creativity, building back better, as that overused phrase says, but sustainability, very important in aligning the values of your destination to your corporate values as well. So lots of opportunity in there. But thank you both for joining us today, and it's been very interesting talking to you both. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.